It's that dreaded time again, the principal's presentation, which I know you all look forward to so much. In fact, for some, I'm sure it's the highlight of the academic calendar. Well, here it is. I'd like to welcome you back. I hope you've had a fabulous Christmas, fabulous New Year, have come back healthy, happy, and raring to go. And although we are welcoming a new year and looking forward, I think it's a good opportunity to reflect on what we have achieved in 13-14 so far this year. So we will focus this morning's activities on two key aspects. It would be wrong of us not to reflect on the amazing success within Ofsted and the recent experience of that fabulous week, and also to think about what we have learned from that week and what we do next, and also to think about the peer review and development programme that we've introduced last term and which we want to drive forward and think about where do we take it next in the weeks ahead. So those are the two focus for this morning's activity. And then this afternoon I know that each individual area has a bespoke programme based on the planning you've done in teams. And I hope to come round and see everybody this afternoon and join in some of those activities. So welcome back. So the current position in terms of my last memory of Ofsted was standing with colleagues in the LRC celebrating an amazing outcome which was achieved within a spirit of togetherness and fantastic teamwork. And for me personally, it was a career highlight and will stay with me for the rest of my life, that hour kind of coming together and having the recognition of what we have achieved over many weeks, months and years. And as I say, it's a personal highlight for me. As I'm sure for many people in this room, last term was a period of extreme emotions because we began last term in the aftermath of a restructure, which meant that some colleagues had actually left the organisation, but we finished it on a tremendous high. So as I say, extreme emotions for me. And although today feels like the start of a new term, actually I think it feels like the start of a new chapter. Because we no longer have the spectre of Ofsted hanging over us, and we really are now masters of our own destiny. So it's about what we want to achieve together now in the months and the years ahead that I'm really excited about, and I want us to determine together. So in terms of Ofsted, it was an amazing achievement in terms of Activate Learning, the group of 3 colleges, of which we are a significant part. We can now say we are good. We are good with outstanding features, and we've earned the right to say that. So overall effectiveness, we achieved a grade 2, and we'll look at some details of that. Our outcomes for learners was self-assessed by ourselves and was ratified by Ofsted as requiring improvement. We do have an issue with too many students in this college and in the other sister colleges, but this college is where I want to focus our attention now. Of too many students staying with us for the duration of the course and not achieving. And it's significant numbers in apprenticeships, apprenticeship frameworks, in functional skills, English and maths qualifications, and in long level 2 and level 3, 16 to 18. And we do need to address that, and we do want to improve and put a focus on that, because there's too many young people's futures at stake for us not to get that right and strive to be as best as we possibly can be. Teaching and learning during the week of Ofsted was amazing. Teams working together to plan learning outcomes and activities for students. We had an overall grade profile of 91% good or better in this college, which I just think is phenomenal. So congratulations to everybody, and thank you to everybody who contributed towards that. The unsung heroes in areas such as estates and IT and HR and finance and all those unsung heroes who go behind the scenes and make our jobs as teachers possible. So thank you to everybody and congratulations to everybody. And leadership and management also was graded as good. And I'm confident that the groundwork that we have undertaken means that we are now entering a period where we can flourish and reach our full potential and go on to achieve even greater things, from good to great perhaps. I'm also aware that we will have some major challenges ahead, and we need to prepare ourselves to win those battles and overcome those challenges. And for those of you that like to see things in glorious Technicolor, here it is. The top one is the overall grade. Good with outstanding features. The report, by the way, will come out, I think it's on the 25th. Officially, it will be released on the Ofsted website on the 25th of January. I had the pleasure of proofing it for accuracy on the 31st of December, which was an interesting experience. But I have to say it's very favourable, very fair, and reads extremely well. So that will be released shortly. There were some areas that were under the spotlight, and again, let's just take some time to remind ourselves of the outcomes of those. These are for Activate Learning. Of course, again, this college played a significant part in achieving these amazing outcomes. We have a large percentage of good and outstanding learning, teaching and assessment going on within these areas. So congratulations to the areas that achieved an outstanding grade. Congratulations to everybody who participated in the overall success. We had some very good provision in early years and in LLDD. But I just want to pick out two areas from here, and those areas are motor vehicle and English and maths. The motor vehicle team is predominantly made up of people who have come into the college last term, some of them for the first time into teaching. They've been hugely supported by teacher training that was under the microscope also, but wasn't graded. And it's amazing that under the pressure of an Ofsted inspector being in your room, that team managed to pull out 100% good teaching and learning during the course of that week. And their results would say that that is a consistent approach, and the feedback from the students. So congratulations to that team particularly. And also English and Maths, again, a brand new team put together last summer and during the course of this term, that again worked together in a new approach to English and Maths, which is a tough nut to crack for all colleges, but I think we're making significant progress on that. And again, 100% good teaching across the week of Ofsted under those extreme pressures. So congratulations to everybody, and please give yourselves a round of applause. So we did get a little bit of feedback that we're able to share. These are Ofsted slides, Ofsted language. I'm not going to read them out because I know you can credit you with the ability to read, but I'd just like to pick out one in particular, which is about the learners make good progress and develop valuable employability skills in a safe, welcoming environment. For me, that's about culture, and the overall overwhelming feedback from all Ofsted inspectors was how confident our students were and what a credit they were to the college and to themselves. And that only comes from having good standards within classrooms and good standards from around the college. So that particularly pleased me, and it bodes well, because we want our students to be the most employable students leaving colleges in the country. That's our aspiration for our young people. But also the well-developed and productive links that staff have with employers, meaning that students can develop good entrepreneurial skills and again making themselves employable. So those two really stuck out for me. Moving on, again, I'm not going to read these out particularly, but I'm pleased about the learner voice and the recognition that students are involved in the college and have a say in how we do things and the improvements that we make. That's really important because we espouse to be student-led learning. and we need to demonstrate that, and we have. But also the way that staff have implemented effective whole organisation approaches to improving teaching and learning, which is supported by well-planned staff training and development. That one particularly stands out for me. Again, for me, this is a culture where we address our own learning needs and live by our values of developing student-led learning. And of course, if we want to be expert teachers, we first have to be expert learners. So, it wasn't all plain sailing, I must admit, during that week. We have been given some really clear directives about what we need to do now to improve. And it's the last one that I really want to focus today, the next 15 minutes or so, and the activities that I'm going to ask you to participate in at the end when you go back into your teams. And this is about the outcomes from lesson observations do not always lead into robust action plans that are reviewed through appraisal and lead to development. And this became a bit of an Achilles heel for us, and it led to some really challenging conversations with the lead inspector, Stephen Tucker. And we're going to share some of the experiences in there, because he kept asking and pushing the point of what is your lesson observation grade profile. And we've chosen to take the number away this year and to actually focus on the development through peer review. So we weren't able to give him a number, and that caused us some challenge, because we had to prove that what we were doing made sense. We had to prove that it had buy-in, and we had to prove that it was having an impact in the classroom. I'm pleased to say that we did that, but it does mean we've got some work to do also from here on, and I just want to touch on that for the duration of this talk, really. So, why did we choose not to undertake lesson observations this year? Well, I could have a huge conversation on that, because I don't want to hit the target in terms of a number, but actually miss the point. We've always done great lesson observations in my experience of this college, but as we said last year, too many of our students stayed with us and didn't achieve at the end. So something is missing for me, and I want to put the energy and the focus on the improvement and the development up front, while it's still time to impact on our students. And I want that to come from within. And that's why we took the decision we took to remove the grade, but continue with the development. So instead of giving Stephen Tucker, the HMI lead for teaching and learning, a number, I gave him the blue document that's on your seats, and I'd like you to take this with you. You've had this before on email, but I'd like you to take it with you. I'd like you to refresh your memory of the purpose of what we're trying to do, and I want you to do some more work on this, which we'll lead to in a moment. But so instead of giving the profile, I gave them this document, Lesson Observation, a New Way of Thinking, that was developed by people in this room, fellow professionals and teachers. And I started to think that the words perhaps of Ofsted and lesson observations and thinking, they're not really fitting well into the same sentence at times during my conversation, and it became quite a challenge that we had to overcome. Because this relies on the participation, the engagement and commitment of teaching professionals. And we have flown in the face of Ofsted, and we've flown in the face of the majority of our sector by doing something completely different. And I feel that we're at the forefront of the thinking around how do we improve teaching, learning and assessment from within. How do we ensure that that impacts on the outcomes and experiences of our students. And as such, this cannot fail, because I'm not sure what the alternative would be for me. So it exposed an Achilles heel. And it's interesting that on line 1 of page 2, it's writ large that no graded observations will take place this term. We're extending that until 14th of February, where we're going to carry out an all-staff review, which I'm asking people to put themselves forward to be involved in, because we haven't determined what happens next, but we want to think about where do we take this. And there's exciting opportunities perhaps for research, to really be at the forefront and to push something back to the sector that's going to make an impact, not just in our college, but in all colleges and young people's lives. So that's the opportunities that we have going forward, and I think it's important that we maximise that and give something back to the sector. So, as I said though, we did expose our Achilles heel, and we need to take some remedial action in order to make sure that we are having the impact that this process is designed to have. So let's remind ourselves firstly of what's in this document. And again, I'm not going to read them all out, but the first one for me is about nurturing a critical culture which fosters reflection amongst teaching professionals. We're all involved in teaching in some way in this room. Even if you're not a teacher, you're still involved in ensuring that teaching is excellent. And it puts teachers in control of their own development. And an expectation that teachers will act upon the feedback that is given to them by their fellow professionals. And that feedback will lead to some development activities which will impact on the experiences and outcomes of our learners. I think you could substitute the word teacher in here for student, because we expect students to act upon their feedback and we expect students to take responsibility. So if this is our culture, then we need to live and breathe it. And this is why I find this so refreshing and why I'm so excited about the possibilities that this process gives us. Although it is a little quirky, and some people in some sectors within our industry struggle with it. So how does it work? Well, I know many of you are fully involved in this already. And we've asked the expectation that each person will be peer reviewed twice by a fellow teacher, and then they will have a reciprocal arrangement. And what I really would like you to do is to think about what is great in your practice that you want to share with other people. And I want you to show it off. I want you to nominate, I want you to come in on this session and I want to show it off. And if you showed it off to your peer, think about how could I spread that wider, this brilliant practice that I've developed over a period of time, or I've learned to do. So perhaps that is through staff development, perhaps it's through team activities, perhaps you just buddy up with somebody else. The other thing is, what is the bit that I'm least confident about? And we've used the word least good here. It could be what you're least confident about. And get some help, okay? Don't bury it, okay? This is not your manager or someone else coming along with a clipboard, sneaking into lessons, hoping that we won't be noticed in a 3-day window. Let's expose what our areas for development are, and let's get some help. Again, the same as we would expect from our students, and live by our values. And the second point is really important. It gives you an opportunity to try new things and get feedback from someone within the same knowledge base as you, or in the same experiences of you, to actually try something different. And again, the conversations that precede this activity would pinpoint what you're trying to achieve, and then you can get some instant feedback and then change it. And in the words of Frank Cofield, the opposite is often the case in formal lesson observations, where even the most experienced of teachers retreat against their better judgment into a model of teaching and learning which is more geared towards passing the exam than developing learning and understanding. And again, for our students, we ask them to take risks, for them to experiment, because we know there is more experience, there is more learning, there is more learning from an experiment that goes wrong or doesn't work to plan, if you reflect upon that, than there is if something goes right. So this is not a back-slapping, congratulating activity where we go and say, hey, look at me, aren't I fantastic? This is about honesty, about we're all learners in this room, and let's learn from this process and move on and improve. And if we do that, if everybody in this room was to do that, then we would truly be an outstanding organisation in every respect, particularly around teaching, learning and assessment. So that's what we're asking you to do. Now, during the course of the Ofsted inspection, there was a series of meetings that took place in very small, tight spaces. They were quite intense and they were very challenging. And on the subject of lesson observations, this came particularly challenging meeting. So what I've asked to do is one of the people who was in attendance at that meeting was Shell Marriott, one of our colleagues from Public Services. I've asked Shell if she would just come up and share some of her experiences, not only of the meeting, but also of the peer review process and how it is helping her and how she feels about it. So I'd just like to welcome Shell.